You're sitting in a quiet room. Nothing is wrong. Your bills are paid. You're safe. And yet somewhere in your chest, there is a hum, a low background tension you can't quite name. You've felt it before. You feel it often. And here's the strange part. That feeling isn't broken. It's ancient. And the real reason it won't go away is far stranger than you think. Your brain is not designed for the world you live in. That sentence sounds like something printed on a motivational poster, but it runs deeper than that. Your brain was shaped by millions of years of an entirely different world. A world where the cost of being wrong about a snapped twig was not embarrassment, it was death. And that brain, with all its old wiring, is sitting inside your skull right now, running the same threat calculations it ran on the open savanna 2 million years ago. Neuroscientist Joseph LeDoux spent decades mapping the brain's fear circuit. What he found wasn't a single switch. It was a system so deeply embedded in the brain's architecture that it operates faster than conscious thought. Before you know you're afraid, you're already afraid. Your heart rate is already climbing. Your pupils are already dilating. The body has made a decision your mind hasn't caught up to yet. This system has a name. You've probably heard it. The amygdala. 2 small almond-shaped clusters of neurons buried deep in the temporal lobes. They sit at the center of your emotional brain, and their job, their one consuming obsession, is to scan everything for danger. Every sound, every face, every shift in light. The amygdala doesn't sleep. It doesn't reason. It just watches. And here is the thing nobody tells you about the amygdala. It doesn't care if the threat is real. Think about the last time a notification sound made your stomach drop. Or the moment before a difficult conversation when your body tensed like you were bracing for impact. There was no predator, no physical danger, but your nervous system didn't get that memo. It fired. It prepared you. It flooded your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline the same way it would have if a lion had just stepped out of the grass. Why? Because your brain runs on a principle that psychologist Daniel Kahneman spent a career documenting: the asymmetry of loss. It is far more costly to treat a real threat as nothing than to treat nothing as a real threat. Miss a predator once, you're dead. Sound a false alarm 1,000 times, you're just exhausted. Evolution does not optimize for your comfort. It optimizes for your survival. And survival is a paranoid business. This is what researchers call negativity bias. Your brain is wired to weight bad information more heavily than good. A criticism lands harder than a compliment. A potential loss triggers more action than an equivalent gain. Bad news spreads faster and sticks longer than good news. Not because humans are pessimists by nature, but because pessimism, for most of human history, was the only strategy that kept you alive long enough to have children. Your ancestors who worried more survived more. Simple as that. Their brains passed down the blueprint. And their blueprint is your blueprint. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the ancient wiring starts to short-circuit in a modern world. For 99% of human evolutionary history, the threats your brain monitored were physical and immediate. A predator, a rival from another group, a sudden drop in temperature, a wound that wouldn't heal. The danger was there, in the physical world. And then it was over. Your cortisol spiked. You ran or you fought. And when the danger passed, your nervous system came back down. Resolution. Reset. Your world today doesn't work like that. The threats your brain is asked to process now are abstract, invisible, and often permanent. Your job might be at risk, but not today, not right now. Just maybe, sometime, possibly. Your relationship has tension, but nobody is throwing spears. The conflict just hums quietly for weeks. You read something alarming online at 10 in the morning, and your amygdala fires like you just walked into a trap. But there is no resolution. You close the tab. The cortisol doesn't know where to go. You carry it into lunch, into your afternoon, into bed. Anthropologist Robert Sapolsky, who spent years studying baboons in Kenya, noticed something striking. The baboons who showed the worst long-term health markers weren't the ones who faced the most physical danger. They were the ones trapped in low-status social positions with no control over their environment. Chronic stress, the kind with no resolution, was more damaging than acute fear. The body can handle a sprint. It is not built for a marathon of low-grade dread. And that is exactly what modern life asks of your nervous system. You wake up and the anxiety is already there, waiting. You can't point to what's wrong. Nothing is immediately physically wrong, but the system is running. The watcher is watching. And because there is nothing specific to point to, the brain starts to make things specific. It finds patterns, it rehearses scenarios, it replays old conversations, it constructs threats where none exist, because a brain primed for danger needs an object to aim at. Psychologist Martin Seligman, one of the founders of positive psychology, called this learned helplessness, the state of a mind that has absorbed so many uncontrollable stressors that it stops believing in its own agency. But the roots of it go deeper than learned behavior. The roots are structural. The roots are evolutionary. You are not weak for feeling this way. You are ancient. Here's the part most people never hear. This system saved your life. Not your life specifically, but the chain of lives that made your life possible. Every single ancestor you have, going back through the ice ages, through the migrations out of Africa, through the extinctions of every other hominin species, survived because their threat detection was calibrated toward overreaction. The ones who stayed calm, who assumed the best, who didn't flinch. Many of them didn't make it. You are here because someone panicked at the right moment. You are here because someone's heart rate spiked at the sound of something in the dark. You are the direct descendant of the nervous, the alert, the worried. That ancient vigilance is part of your inheritance. It is written into you at the cellular level, and yet it is now misfiring, loudly, constantly, in a world where the biggest predator you'll face today is a passive-aggressive email. The mismatch is not a flaw, it's a lag. Evolution moves on geological time. Culture moves on human time. The gap between the brain you have and the world you're living in is only about 12,000 years wide. A blink in evolutionary terms, but an enormous chasm in lived experience. So what do you do with that? You can't rewire the amygdala through willpower. You can't think your way out of a system that fires before thought begins. What you can do, what the research consistently shows, is create resolution where the brain's ancient design expects it. Movement is one. Physical exertion metabolizes the stress hormones your body produces when the threat system fires. When you run or lift or swim, you give the cortisol somewhere to go. You complete the circuit that your ancestors completed when they sprinted across the savanna. The body calms because the body has finished what it started. Breathing is another. Slow, extended exhales activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the counterweight to the fight or flight response. You can literally signal to your amygdala that the coast is clear through the pace of your breath. This isn't a metaphor. It's a neural pathway. And it's one your ancestors used around fires for thousands of years. And perhaps the most powerful tool is simply naming what you feel. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman showed that putting your emotional experience into words, saying or writing "I feel afraid," reduces activity in the amygdala. The act of labeling engages the prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive center. Language, in other words, can slow the ancient machine. You narrate the fear, and the fear shrinks. There is something almost beautiful in that. The brain that kept your ancestors alive, the one that flinches at shadows, that rehearses disasters, that runs threat calculations in the background of every quiet moment, can be calmed by words, by stories, by meaning, which means that the same cognitive machinery that made humans afraid also made humans the only creature on Earth capable of talking themselves down from that fear. Tonight, when that low background hum starts up, the one with no clear origin, the one that follows you into sleep, you'll know what it is now. It's not broken. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a 2-million-year-old security system running in a world it wasn't designed for. And the next time you hear it, you might just be able to name it. And in the naming, find the quiet on the other side.